A person who thinks all the time has nothing to think about except thought. He loses touch with reality. A good servant, but a bad master, and lives in a world of illusion. And all so-called civilized people have increasingly become crazy and self-destructive.
Welcome back to Sledgehammer Horror, guys. I am Ken Sledge.
And I'm Ashley Sledge.
And let's talk horror.
So today we are doing our verses on the Amityville, the OG versus the remake. So we're going to give you some scenes that we like from the original and some scenes that we like from the remake. And then we're going to verse them and let you know which one we liked better.
Right. So let's get right into the original now.
Let's do it.
So something very special about the Amityville Horror from 1979. This was my mother's first horror movie. My mother's obviously passed by now, but this is a big reason why we wanted to do this episode, to kind of pay homage to my mom. So this episode is dedicated to you, Wendy Braun. Wherever you're watching from, I hope you enjoy this. So you want to talk about some of the scenes from the original that we liked that didn't make it to the remake?
Yeah, so let's talk about the preacher when he is on the phone and it burns his hand and he drops it, and then he had, his hand is all burnt.
Yeah.
It's all like bubbling.
I love this one is definitely more supernatural than the remake.
Absolutely.
They really depend more on that fear in this one. And we'll talk more about that when we get to the verses part. But this one does have a very effective jump scare. They got the both of us when we were watching it. Now, when that cat jumped out, we both literally like, oh, yes. We just got by a cat. So I can always appreciate a good jump scare. So I wanted to talk about that scene a little bit.
And then there's she's like her aunt, the nun that comes, and she's supposed to stay for the weekend, and she just doesn't feel right, and she's acting all weird, and it's like, I can't stay here.
Gets all sick and throws up on her way out.
Gets physically sick and just leaves, like, see ya.
And another thing about this original, as in compared to the remake, they really do focus a lot more on the priests in this one.
Yeah. The
backstory of them. And you have the one where they're driving to the house and the younger priest doesn't believe him, but then the car starts to lose control. They crash the car. This was a very suspenseful scene. When you're watching it, you're like, oh my gosh, are they going to take the priests out in a car? Like a very, very suspenseful scene. So, and they dropped Detroit, Michigan. Woo! Represent.
So also some like, the
malevolent forces.
Yes, the window that comes down on the kid's hand and crushes it. Oh my gosh, like that just makes me cringe when I watch it.
Well, then you got the dad and the friend trying to open the window,
it won't open.
And they can't get the window open.
Yeah.
Obviously, as a parent, you don't have to be a parent for this to affect you.
No, I mean anybody you see, like in physical pain and you can't get it off.
Especially a child.
Yeah, it just it makes me cringe.
Very much so. And when we're talking about malevolent forces, you do have the scene, another one we both really liked, when it starts to really come together and the door slams itself and shatters.
Yes.
I've always been a big haunted house fan. I think it's because my first horror movie was House. So once you start getting supernatural with houses, I really, really get into it. So I love the door break at this point too.
Yeah, well, speaking of like haunted houses, like when she's talking to her daughter about her imaginary friend, and then she looks out the window and you see those red eyes, that creeps me out.
That's another thing. I love that scene. Yes. And Margot Kidder is just amazing. So to watch her in this role was great. What about when they're in the basement? So we'll talk more about this in the verses, but the basement is a huge part of both movies. Like, I did this one when he's trying to tear apart that wall and he sees the little like possessed version of himself. Yeah. Inside the wall. It's
kind of cheesy looking, but
James Brolin is a man's man, but this scene you're just kind of like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
A little bit of cheese here.
And then they put their cross on the wall, and we have a possession demon, and the cross turns upside down.
He's like, I'll teach you.
Yeah.
I'll show you what's up. Which always confused me because demons and the such get burned and whatever by crosses, but yet they can somehow turn them upside down.
It's weird.
I don't know. What about when this is a scene? I know that it's not supposed to be comical, but we were laughing when the priest is in the church and he looks up and he sees the statue breaking apart and he's screaming at the statue. And obviously this is a hallucination because the other priest is kind of just like, what's
going on here?
Then he's just like, I'm blind. I can't see.
Poor guy.
But I wanted to talk about how this was a little bit comical for us because of something you're about.
Yeah, so let's talk about another comical area where he's flustered with this
he's
at
going
this point,
insane.
and like the house is getting to him, and he sees this roll of carpet, and he's just like, I'm gonna take your carpet. Grabs it up, and I think we rewinded that part.
Oh my god, because of her.
I did my commentary with it,
Yes.
and we both died.
I don't know why. He's just possessed, so he wants to unroll the carpet and start laying carpet in the house. But the way that she was just like, I'm gonna get up and steal your carpet. Like, that's what the demon's here for, is to steal carpet. But in all seriousness, though, like, we talked about comedy, but there is one part of this film that kind of bummed us both out. You do get the scene of George hitting her.
Yeah.
And again, I won't go too much into the remake yet, but to watch him actually cross that line and put his hands on her, spousal abuse one way or another is never funny. It's never entertaining.
Never okay.
At least with this one, it was a single punch, just for the effect of the movie. And again, I'm not saying that's okay. That still sucks. But to watch James Brolin, to actually hit her, is a scene that we were both kind of like, ooh, that's rough. To show how far gone he truly is in the possession.
Yeah. So another one that really got me is when he is looking through the newspaper and he sees his face in the newspaper from, the previous people. He looks like
it's just like him.
It looks just like him.
Yeah. So George in the newspaper, it is George there that killed the family before. Right. So the possession is completely taken over. And one last scene I want to talk about from the original that we both truly enjoyed was the bleeding walls at the end. Yeah. You didn't get much of this throughout the remake because the remake was more focused on George himself, but not the malevolent spirits about. So to see, the walls start to bleed, like knowing this is going down, this is real now. So the original, we both were fans of the original. Yeah. I do like the original. A little bit more of a slow burn, but you want to talk about the remake?
Let's do it.
So now we're going to talk to you a little bit about the 2005 remake of the Amityville Horror. Something I want to talk about right off the rip, obviously. I love the catch him and kill him aspect, where you can constantly hear the voice telling him, catch him, kill him, catch him, kill him.
No wonder the guy's going mad.
Right. And then Kathy actually sees this on the fridge with their magnets. Right. And she's like, who's messing with the fridge? She goes back out there and it still says home sweet home. So I really did enjoy that. And I love this so much I bought a shirt with it on there. So I wanted to talk about the catch him and kill him real quick.
What about the hanging little girl when they're getting intimate and he looks over and he just sees her hanging? Like, I mean, that's a mood breaker right there.
Very fast way to kill the moment.
Absolutely.
Why'd you stop performing? Well, there's a dead girl right there hanging. We talked in the original about a very effective jump scare. I want to talk about that here. You got the jump scare with the monster. And when that happened, again, Ashley and I were both like, oh, okay, you got us on this one. I did like that jump scare. I thought it was very effective.
Also, what about when he thinks that the stepdaughter is drowning and he gets out of the lake and he looks up and he sees her and then the ghost Jody up there? Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's creepy. Like, can you imagine seeing that?
Nope. And you can really tell that George is starting to lose his mind in this movie. He's like, you know what? I'm going to go relax. I'm going to take a bath. Gross. And he lays down in the bath. Then it feels like he's getting attacked by somebody. Like you see the arms come up and pulling him down into the water. Another scene that's just like it causes anxiety. Very suspenseful. What's happening to him in that bathtub?
Speaking of anxiety. Okay, Chelsea on the roof walking on, that small little platform. Yeah. And, they're looking up stories above. Like, that gives me such bad anxiety, just even watching it.
And then she falls. And George barely catches her.
He gets her. But, that is definitely made me anxious.
For sure. And Jody told me I could see Daddy again. Like, that's so heartbreaking. When we really start to see George go over the top is he's telling the boy to hold the log. Yes. When he's chopping wood. And then he grabs his face. What's the matter? You crying? I thought we were friends. We're friends, right? Yeah. Like that's another scene where you're like, damn, man, this guy's going fucking nuts. Right. Like, very big fan of that scene too. And I'm not a fan of mental abuse, child abuse at all. But it's another one of those where you're really driving home the point of how far gone he is. But it doesn't go to the point to where it's vile and ridiculous. I mean, don't get me wrong.
I was like,
what he's doing is vile and gross, but it's done in a classy way, I guess, is how I want to say it. It's not something that is over the top beating. Mental abuse is never okay, and it's not fun to watch. But at least this way, it makes you feel for the character.
What about when George is down in the basement and he's going through the home video, and then all of a sudden you see the boy's face, he changes into a demon. And, you know, he really thinks that his family is, you know, they're demons.
Yeah. And I think a big part of that, too, is like this is showing that George is still in there somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, he's still watching those home videos. He's still love and
laughing, and then all of a sudden you just see his face, which it looks amazing.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I'm not a big CGI fan, but this looked really good.
Looks good.
When we're talking about sad moments, you have George with his axe out in the boathouse because he hears a monster. The monster comes at him. George kills the monster with the axe, only to find out it was the family dog.
Yeah, that's horrible.
He grabs the collar and he, you know, he freaks out, but he saw it as a monster. He didn't mean to kill the dog. So I think we got one last scene that didn't make it, that they put in the remake that was never in the original, that we both liked very, very much.
So, and when the priest is telling her
about the doll.
See,
because Chelsea. She has this doll that she's been walking around with.
And the priest says,
Jody DeFeo was buried with that doll.
What?
Yeah.
So Jody was buried with this doll, and now how does Chelsea have it? So, well, we talked a lot about what we liked about the original. We talked a lot about what we like about the remake. Now we're going to verse them off and tell you which one we liked more. So now we're going to be going through and talking about scenes that were included in both films, which ones we liked more from each film, and our final ranking of which film we liked the most. So you want to start us off?
Yeah, so let's talk about the opening kills. You have, in the original, you have them kind of outside the house. You hear the gunshots and you see the commotion, but that's really all you see. Or the remake where you actually see him, you know, killing his family.
Going from room to room.
Yeah. Which one do you prefer?
I'm going to go with the remake on this one. And it's strictly for the fact, one, you see it happening. And two, when he goes into Jody's room and she's hiding in the closet, and he opens the door and she's like, "What are you doing, Ronnie?" And he's like, "I love you, Jody." And then he shoots her. Like, it's so heartbreaking, and I'm going to go with that one just because I think it has a bigger impact when you're actually watching it all unfold.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with the remake as well. Like you said, it has a bigger impact, and you actually care about this family because you see them obviously they once had love for each other, and he once was a good brother, probably.
And he's possessed, obviously.
Yeah.
He's crying. He's like, "I'm so sorry." You know,
so
like,
he doesn't want
that love is still in there somewhere. What about the portrayal of George? Do you like the James Brolin one or the Ryan Reynolds portrayal of George?
Okay, nothing against James Brolin, but Ryan Reynolds, he's charismatic, and he has his wits about him, and he has little jokes that he puts in, and even when he's a dickhead, like, you still love him.
Right. And that bod, though. But no, I am going to go with Ryan Reynolds. I think that I like his portrayal more just because he could take it from 0 to 60. And again, James Brolin did an amazing job. I love his portrayal, but just Ryan Reynolds does it a little bit more for me. I think it's a little bit stronger on his end. Now we're going to talk about the priests. Now, something I want to mention, in the original, I like the portrayal they do with the priests more. You get a lot more backstory on the priest and what's happening with them. But let's talk about the fly scene, where you get the flies. Which one was your favorite?
I have to go with the original. I think it looks really good. And, you know, you see more of...
Yeah, they don't just chase them out of the house.
You see more of what's going on.
Yeah. I'm going to go with you because it's practical. It looks better. And like you said, it actually is very suspenseful. It's not just flies coming out of the grate and then chasing him out of the house. Like, it's a very suspenseful scene in the original. Now, probably we're talking about scarring scenes and hardest scenes to watch. It's probably the babysitter scene where she's trapped in the closet. Now, I do want to say first off, the babysitter from the original that has like the mouthpiece.
Yeah.
Like, she's definitely the one I'd want babysit my kids.
She looks a little more responsible.
The other one shows up in a belly shirt and she's just ridiculous, smoking weed in the bathroom.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the actual in the closet scene, which one did you prefer?
I have to go with the remake on this one. The first one, the original, it really did, it was scary. But this one, you see Jody in there, and she has that bullet hole, you know, and she's like, "Look at what Ronnie did to me," and I just think it's scarier.
Yeah, and in the original, you don't see Jody
right
in the closet. Whether you see her in there pounding and she cuts her hand, there's blood.
Yeah.
but just that impact of look what Ronnie did, and she puts the babysitter's finger in the hole, and then it's a gunshot, and she flies back. Oh, it's over the top. So scary. Now, what about the fact that Jodie, you can see her in the remake, and the family, like you talked about earlier, when you see George looking up and he sees her in the window. In the original, none of the other family seen Jodie.
Right.
She was just an imaginary friend.
You see the rocking chair rocking,
right?
You know,
but
stuff
they
like
never
that,
actually see her.
No one ever sees her. I like that you can actually see her in the remake. I think that's, you know, you actually can see her, and it makes it better.
It adds a lot.
It does.
Because then you know that the family is seeing these things too. It's not just this little girl's crazy.
Right.
You know, even though they try to say, you know, she's not real. Yes, she is. She's totally real. And George is like, yeah, she's kind of real. I seen her while we were humping, and I seen her out the window. So you have the dream of death, the dream of him watching himself kill the family. Which one did you like more, the original or the remake?
I like the remake more. I think that one was more impactful. You know, he's killing him off, and then he kills himself, or he goes to kill himself.
Yeah. I do like the original one on this one. I just think that this one hit me a little bit harder when we were watching it. Now, again, Ryan Reynolds did great. This is one where you're just like, man, watching him kill his family is never an easy thing, obviously.
Right.
So I'm going to go with that one. Earlier, we talked about how the basement is very important throughout these movies. In the original, it's literally a portal to hell. In the remake, it was Ketchum, where he tortured Indians, and this was an Indian burial ground. So which one did you like more?
Even though it's kind of cheesy looking, I like that it's like the portal to hell. You know how they open it and you see it's like red in there, and I like that more.
See, I'm actually gonna go with the remake on this one. We're gonna disagree on this one as well, mainly because it's Ketchum. But you get to those scenes of watching how he tortured those people, and it's just more impactful to me to actually watch these things happen. So God, please don't. I don't think it was nice, but it was a nice touch for the filmmakers to change that up a little bit, in my opinion. Now, what about George going crazy? You know, in James Brolin, you have him stealing your carpet. Ryan Reynolds is just super insane in the role. So which one did you prefer?
I think Ryan Reynolds killed it. You know, like you had just mentioned, he goes from 0 to 60, and it hit home for me.
It's scarier.
It is.
For sure. And I'm with you. I think it's much scarier. He's not just stealing your carpet and running around. I think that he's much, you know, he's hitting the gun against the wall.
More dramatic.
Yeah, you know. So I'm going to go with Ryan on this one. So now we're going to go to the ending. In the original, you have Josh Brolin's George run out of the car, go get the dog, come back, and they drive off. In the remake, you have them finally getting out to the boathouse. You know, George telling Kathy, don't even look back. Don't look at it. And they're sailing off, and then it cuts back inside the house. You see the ghost of Jodie, and the hands come up and grab her by the feet and take her down into the house. So which ending did you prefer? I
have to go with the remake on this one. I like the ending, how she gets pulled down, and you see like she's trapped here forever.
Yeah. No arguments. I'm definitely going to say the remake as well. I think that it was much more effective. Even the fact that throughout the movie, George in the original is always possessed, even when he's leaving the house. In this one, they make it clear, like when they go out to dinner and stuff, and he's like, I'm feeling way better. Yeah. You know, and then when they're out there on the boat, and
when they get so far away.
Yeah, he's just like, Kathy, don't even look back. Just keep driving. You know?
And the son, he's like, why are we saving this guy?
Yeah, I love that. It's like, fuck him.
Right.
You know,
like,
leave him here.
Why are we saving him again?
But and then like obviously the added touch of seeing Jodie get pulled down, showing she's stuck here forever.
Right.
So this gives us an overall score. I have 2 points for the original, 7 points for the remake. You have?
I also have 2 for the original and 7 for the remake.
So as an overall score, because it's not always the same
in
versus and film, which film do you prefer of the two?
I have to go with a remake on this one. I really enjoy this movie, and it's scary, and like I said, I love Ryan Reynolds and him as George. He did a fantastic job. And I really enjoyed it. Not saying that I didn't enjoy the original. You know, there's some good aspects of that too, but I have to go with the remake over it.
I'm with you. For once, I'm actually choosing the remake over the original. And again, I love the original. It was my mom's first horror movie, obviously, so it's very special to me. But there's just something about this remake that I love. I could watch this movie over and over again. It's a shame the rest of this franchise is so bad,
Yeah.
because these two are just so good. And soon we'll be getting Amityville in space. So we'll have to see what happens with that.
We'll see what's going on there.
Right. But to end this, I want to say I do like both these movies very much. These movies are definitely worth a watch. Me personally, as I said, I prefer the remake, as does Ashley. So we appreciate you guys watching. If you haven't already, hit that like, hit that subscribe button. We'd love to have you along. Until next time, I'm Ken Sledge.
And I'm Ashley Sledge.
Keep talking horror.
Stay who you are.
And we'll see you guys soon.
Bye, guys.